Hey everybody, how are you? I'm Tammy Kiefer. I'm your host here at Overcoming Waves, and I wanted to come on here today. We're going to be talking about imposter syndrome, what it is, where it comes from, how it can be, how it can be formed based on different family roles. I'm going to get into all this stuff. Today is going to be a juicy session. Um, so if you are here, say hi. If you're able to catch this live, let me know you're here. I love participation. I love questions and comments and how this can relate to you. If you're catching it on the replay, just let me know. Just put hashtag replay in the comments. So, all right, let's dig in. Let's get going. So imposter syndrome, have you, like, what is, I want to know, what do you guys think it is? How does it look? Have you ever experienced it? I feel like I've got makeup all over my face. Have you, like, if you've experienced, if you know someone who's experienced, I would love to know how it has affected your life, because it's really debilitating. Imposter syndrome is constantly thinking that you aren't good enough, and pretty soon everyone is going to see it. So how it can come across? I've got some things that if you've ever said this to yourself, little quotes. If you've ever said this, or if you have ever thought these things, here's how it can be demonstrated. So, saying something like, I don't deserve this success, I just got lucky. So you're downplaying it. I really didn't deserve this. I'm not as capable or talented as people think I am. That's another really common one. Eventually, others will realize I'm not as competent as they think I am. Again, this competency, like, pretty soon everyone's going to see right through me. They're going to see it. I feel like I'm just pretending to know what I'm doing. I'm afraid to speak up or take on new challenges because I might fail and be exposed as a fraud. Super, super, super common. And have you ever had a new job? Say, here's an example how it could pertain to your own life. Have you ever had a new job and you show up to your new job, and you walk in, you're going through these trainings, and you're comparing yourself to other people, looking at how quickly people are picking things up. Maybe they're asking these amazing questions, or they're getting called on to come up and demonstrate something. And all the while you're like, oh my God, pretty soon they're going to wonder, who is that? And why did we hire that person? And that is how imposter syndrome can look out in the workplace. It could be in a relationship. It could be where you are with somebody, and all the while you're thinking, why is this person with me? They chose to be with me. What is the, pretty soon they're going to figure out, like, I'm not all this, and they're going to leave me. What about starting a hobby, or having the confidence to ask for a promotion or a raise? Changing careers. That's another one. I think people change careers all the time this day and age, and to be able to get out there and start something new. I think it can get triggered whenever you're in a situation and you're doubting yourself. So, I mean, there's so many different situations where it can come out. But the first thing to do is to be aware that it's even happening. So, and a lot of times it's just, you believe it. Again, your thoughts, your perception is your reality, and what in your reality is how you behave, the energy that you put out there, how you show up in your life. So if perception is your reality is your belief system and how you get out there. And then the thinking comes in, and you start to ingrain all of these ideas and thoughts. And if these ideas and thoughts are, I'm a fraud and everyone's going to figure it out, how are you demonstrating that out in your life? And where's your level of confidence, and where's your level of anxiety? I bet confidence is low and anxiety is high. So, so if this is landing on you and you're like, that's me, get vulnerable. Let me know. Is this something that you've ever experienced in your whole life? How did you get over it? How did it work out for you? Are you still stuck in it? let's get the conversation going. So a couple things to, I guess what I'm trying to think. Let's go over what to do, and then I want to talk about. No, I'm going to change gears. Where it comes from, and then we're going to go over what to do about it. um, so if you have read my book, I don't know if I have a copy here. Hold on, let me grab a book. I don't know if I've ever talked about my book. I've got a book. It's called Preparing for the Jungle, Avoiding Snakes and Pitfalls on the Path to Healthy Love. And it's definitely around anxiety, but it's geared towards people who are wanting healthy relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it is a relationship with your neighbor or family member or a colleague or a boss, whatever. You have relationships everywhere you go, and part of it is getting yourself. Well, the whole thing is about getting yourself into a very, very healthy space so that you're available for a relationship. But it's also around attracting the right type of person for a relationship. But how you're getting out there in the world energy attracts energy. But why I'm bringing this up is that the first part about it, it's the second chapter, we go into family roles and how you grew up. So it's kind of a workbook, but there's a page in there, the family grid, and the family roles, how you grew up. I'm bringing this back to imposter syndrome, so bear with me. How you were raised and all of the dynamics in your family. We all fell into some of these roles. The roles are, there's the family hero, the mascot, the enabler, the scapegoat, the lost child. And whatever role you fell into, and sometimes you move around between a couple roles, whatever role you fell into is who you're going to attract in a romantic partner, in a best friend, in these relationships, because it's what's comfortable and what you're used to. So where this goes into imposter syndrome is understanding what your role was growing up and how you could develop imposter syndrome based on this role. And again, think of it as, I don't know why, I'm thinking the Lord of the Flies. So it's kind of an example. But if you put a bunch of people on an island, there's going to be these roles that develop. There's going to be the person who takes charge. There's going to be the people pleaser. There's going to be the person who gets blamed for everything. There's going to be the person that scoots off and just wants to go escape or hide in their room or exit stage left. There's going to be, there's going to be the funny person, that's mascot, the one that always jokes and just tries to make light of things. So you're going to have these roles no matter where you go, and how we grew up is what starts to become ingrained inside of us, inside how we function, I look at it as we all have this filter, and everyone's filter is different. So my filter is going to be different from your filter. But our filters are made up of how we grew up and what was role modeled to us, what was perceived as normal. Then our experiences in our life add to this filter. So if you've got someone who say was the caretaker in your family, that person is going to be tending towards the more people-pleasy. They want to know what's going on with everybody. They're likely to be the person who people come to because they're probably very easy to talk to. They're kind of like the peacekeeper. There's pros and cons to all of the family roles. In this particular situation, they can be more parentified, which means that sometimes that caretaker will take on a parent role and feel an over responsibility for their family dysfunction. This there's so many different layers, but I'm trying to consolidate it into what the topic is today. So I'm trying to stay on task, because I could go on and on about this stuff forever because I love it. I think it's fascinating. And but anyways, okay, so if the caretaker person has this parentified role, then all of a sudden they're going to feel this over responsibility, but with that can also come a lack of confidence because you can't control other people. You can only lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. So if they are in this role of wanting to keep the peace, sometimes they can lack their boundaries because they're trying to people please, they're trying to avoid the conflict, they're trying to make sure everyone is happy at their own expense. So there's a lot of confidence, little chunks that get taken out. So where's their belief system when they go out into the world? Well, there's going to be a part that could become imposter syndrome, because it's like, well, pretty soon people are going to see that I can't keep everything in line, and I can't make everybody happy. And I'm lacking my own confidence to show up and maintain this facade that I have, all my shit together, because really internally I kind of don't. And pretty soon people are going to see that, and so there's a fear of imposter syndrome from that caretaker family role. From the golden child or the family hero, there is like they are the person who always looked like they had it together. They were always achieving. They get a ton of praise, like, oh, you did so great, and you were like the best soccer player, and you got the straight A's, and on the outside they look like everything is just perfect, and then they get praised for that perfection. Well, yes, they can be very high achievers. That's a positive, but the negative side is that they rely on this external validation to make them feel good. So take that person into the workplace, and maybe they've got a boss who no news is good news. And if your boss doesn't pull you into the office and say, okay, you messed up here and here and here, then in your mind you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not getting any external validation. Am I messing up? Do they like me? Am I doing a good job? I don't think so. And then you're trying to read all these behaviors. So you can look at it from an imposter syndrome standpoint, that if you're used to getting external conflict, external reinforcement about how great you're doing, and then all of a sudden you're in a situation that you're not, here comes the imposter syndrome. Pretty soon they're going to figure out that maybe I'm not great. From a scapegoat, so this is the person in the family role that you were, the scapegoat's always the one that's blamed for things. So maybe there's a lot of dysfunction in the family, and instead of looking at the dysfunction that's actually happening, everything is put on this one person in the family. Like, oh, well, they're causing problems at school, or they are disruptive at home, or they're always causing chaos, or whatever. And then they become the focus instead of what's actually going on in the family. So again, they can feel a sense of feeling really inadequate growing up, and then they go into their life, and then they continue to have these without awareness. Like, all this stuff can be changed, but you got to have awareness. But if you don't have awareness, you continue to go out there, and then you put yourself in these situations where it's like, well, here I'm always blamed again, and no one is seeing the positive side of me. So again, here comes the imposter syndrome, because you feel inadequate, and even if someone comes along and says, oh my gosh, we're so proud of you, thank you so much for doing this, there's still that internal sense of inadequacy, and you're like, oh God, I must be a great actor, because pretty soon they're gonna see that I messed up, and then I'm right back into feeling inadequate. The invisible child is the one who just wants to escape. Like, I don't want to be in the limelight. I don't want to be around conflict. I just want to just totally isolate. With that role, there's a lot of avoidance going on, but there's a need to, like, prove yourself to yourself. Sometimes you can be concerned about what other people are thinking about you, but sometimes it's really kind of all about you, because you don't really want to be with anybody. But your confidence takes a hit because you don't believe in yourself because you've been avoiding the conflict and you haven't been, maybe you're more isolated, maybe there's just a lot of avoidance. And like we've talked about with anxiety, avoidance high, confidence high. Like that's putting gasoline on an anxiety fire, is avoiding. There's a lot of avoidance with there's a lot of isolation with the lost child. So imposter syndrome, you have that lack of internal sense of self. So you go out in the world and you're kind of assuming that everybody thinks that you have that lack of ability as well. I know I ran through those like fast. I go into way more detail in my book. It's also an online course. I know I haven't talked about that at all in here, but I go into a lot more of the family role stuff. And if you ever have questions on that or you want to work together, absolutely reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you with that stuff, because it can be so ingrained and you don't really realize it. It just becomes this background noise that you operate from, and that becomes part of your filter. And if you don't understand where it's coming from, it's really hard to make a shift and pull your power back or take control over your life. And when you don't feel a sense of power and control over your own life, not power over other people, but the power of your own life, you're going to feel some anxiety 100%. That was a lot. Okay. Is this resonating? Let me know. Is this resonating? Am I going through this too fast? Would you like a live on each separate family role? Maybe that would be helpful. I'm open to your, I find myself, sometimes I talk about this stuff all the time and I know it like the back of my hand, but when I'm talking about it with other people, it's like learning from a fire hydrant, where you're just totally overwhelmed. So I don't mean to blaze through this, but I want to drop little nuggets, and if any of this really resonates with you, let's dig in. Let me know. I'm happy to do it individually. I'm happy to do it in a live. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So now you know, and now what are you going to do going forward? All right. Number one, you will hear me say it a gazillion times, awareness. You can't change something if you're not aware of it. So how do you become aware of it? Maybe you ask yourself, how am I doing in my life? Am I happy? Where's my confidence level? Do I trust myself? Am I second guessing myself? You can go on Google and put in like, what are statements that a person experiencing imposter syndrome says to themselves, and you will come up with a million things. And read through them and ask yourself, have I ever said any of these things to myself, any of these statements? And if you have, it doesn't mean you're like, a lost cause. It just means that now you have awareness and now you can actually do something about it. So awareness, educating yourself. What is it? What does it look like? How does it show up in other people? I want to learn more. Where does it come from? Is this me? And what can I do about it? Is kind of what we're talking about here. Another one is because these negative thoughts are so ingrained and they just happen like second nature, is shifting your negative thoughts, like really challenging these negative thoughts when they come along. So say you're the first one that I came up with, I don't deserve this success, I just got lucky. Challenge it. Now hold on a second. Am I really lucky? Did something just fall in front of me and I'm really just super lucky that I got this position at work? Or did I have to interview? Did I have to show up in the interview with the knowledge that I have? Did I answer their questions? Did I connect with the people? For some reason they hired you, and it probably wasn't just based on luck. Look at these other negative thoughts that come into your mind. Comparing. I did a live on comparing, but comparing yourself to other people. I'm not as capable and talented as they are, and pretty soon they're going to see it. Ask yourself, okay, maybe I'm not as capable and talented in this area as that person, but what are my own strengths? And giving yourself credit for your own strengths. And if you want to be as capable and talented as these people, what are your short-term realistic goals? We talked about that in another live. So coming up with short-term realistic goals so that you're not setting yourself up to fail, and being very realistic. You got to be realistic because you don't want to set yourself up to fail. They have to be short-term because you need these little nuggets of instant gratification, and that's going to keep you going. So that's something else to work with as far as the confidence piece and recognizing this imposter syndrome. These characteristics are setting up some very short-term realistic goals for yourself. Recognize your accomplishments. You've got to pat yourself on the back. You've got to celebrate the small stuff. If that's the book, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Celebrate the small stuff. Is that what it's called? It's a really good book. It encourages you to just take a pause and step back and recognize, like, how did I get to where I am? It didn't just happen. You're not just lucky. It didn't just fall in your lap. Like, some people definitely have way more opportunities than other people, but you still have to take a hold of that opportunity and run with it. You probably see, like, people who have these opportunities dropped in their lap all the time, but then they sabotage it, or they just kind of keep waiting and hoping that it happens, or they've got the world owes me or something, and they just wait for things to continue to drop in their lap. So yes, some people have way more opportunities than other people. Some people have to really fight for those opportunities. Every single fight and accomplishment, you give yourself credit. You recognize the fight. You recognize what you had to go through in order to get to where you are now, and you give yourself a ton of credit. You have to do that. You can't rely on other people to give you credit. That's there, but that's a bonus. That's not something that you rely on to make you whole. Otherwise, you're missing that internal sense of self. So, and then be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. It is so hard to do, especially from childhood and whenever all your stuff, like, it's ingrained, all this little chit chat back here that you heard at one point in your life and you subscribe to, and it's just not working for you anymore. It's like, maybe it will never go away, but you want to just, like, quiet that down back there and be kind to yourself. Positive affirmations are helpful. I put out there before about coping statements, and I got coping statements out to a few of you guys who asked for them. If you want that list of coping statements, just comment in the comment section. If you didn't get it, or you can find it, or you can open it, or whatever, let me know. I'll get those out to you, because coping statements are so important to shift your confidence and quiet the old tapes down and introduce a new way of thinking and ingrain that new way of thinking. And when you do this and you practice it, it becomes a new way of thinking. So, yes. So that was a really quick live. Just to recap what imposter syndrome is it's this place where you go to in your mind where you're doubting your accomplishments, you're doubting your successes, you're doubting your attributes that you're bringing into a situation, and there's a fear that pretty soon people are going to find out who I really am, and they're not going to like me, they're not going to want to be around me, eventually they're going to leave me. You've got that rejection and abandonment stuff that can drive this. So that's what imposter syndrome looks like. We talked about the family roles and how when you grow up in these family roles, how you are more likely to experience imposter syndrome and what it looks like, because it can look very different. And then we also talked about ways to challenge this and move through it and find your confidence, find your power, find your internal sense of self. So I hope that this was helpful to you, and I'm really excited to learn how this has landed on you and how you've experienced in your life. I honestly don't know one person who hasn't experienced some imposter syndrome. There's a big spectrum. There's some people who experienced it in like different stages of their life. There are people who experience it all the time, and it's super disabling and debilitating. And I just want you to know, like, you're not alone with this stuff, and if you don't talk about it, it's probably not going to change. So I want to get that conversation going and give you some little nuggets of hope, and know that it doesn't have to be like that. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you next Tuesday. All right, take care.